Hey, Shalom, Mesha, and South Souls, but give no praise to how about Shem, El Shah, Bashem Kakadash, that belongs to the Apostle GMS, and honestly, brothers in the work of the Most High in truth and in sincerity. I was having a what they refer to as like shower thoughts, when you're just in the shower and you're thinking, whatever, what have you. And it's something that I meditate on every now and then. You try and tell someone, this is, this is the end, right? But it was then actually then, sitting down with them and, breaking this down in the scripture. Now we understand scripture says, speaks about how, what's the word I'm looking for? So you speak about, Matthew 25th chapter about go ye to sellers and buy. But there are certain instances where you might, feel the need to, explain to someone, whether it's your wife, whether, for instance, your boss is like, yo, why aren't you taking this thing? And then, explaining to that, look, man, look, this is the end goal, this is the end time, blah, 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 and this is what I believe, pursuant to what Apostle Tahar said when he was responding to that nurse here in the UK. Okay. So I just spent the last hours of just curating some precepts, putting them here. I know I have not got anywhere near all of them. So, if brothers can help me out, drop some precepts down there in the bottom and I'll add them to the list also. Right. Or you could sign up, hey, which call if you press that button and then there'll be a little person icon if you sign up with your Gmail or whatever. And then I can go through them Lord's will when I have time. Okay, so this is Deuteronomy 30 and 7. So like I said, I've curated some, put them together here. I'm just gonna break them down, and why, I've linked them and grouped them up in this topic here of how we know this is the end. Right, it's Deuteronomy 30 and 7. And the Lord, and obviously it's going to be in, an order of how the Bible's ordered in it. This is Deuteronomy 30 and 7. Says, and Yahweh, thy power, put all these curses upon thine enemies and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee, right? This is in here because we're, over last year, which was beautiful, right? These Edomites started being, referred to for, as like Karens and this, that, and the other. Now, when you read the curses, right, it says about how we would be a proverb and a byword, right? This is Deuteronomy 20 and 37, right? It says, and thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb and a byword among all nations, whither Yahweh shall lead thee. Okay, so this is going into this idea of how when Jake was basically in this captivity, he was being called niggas, he was being called spicks, he was being called this, we were being called that, right? But now, what is the term used, right, for a moany, annoying, I want to speak to your manager type Edomite woman. She's referred to as a Karen, right? And you've also got Kevin's, which will be the male counterparts of that, right? And even as I'm doing this now, I'm even thinking of this precept here, right? Because last year was good, in the sense of the, more and more the dirt and nastiness of the things that Esau was doing to the children of Israel, to the kingdom of Israel, right? It, was coming out, okay? All of these Edomites, dirty laundry was being aired, right? So we'll read this. This is Habakkuk 2:16. It says, thou art filled with shameful glory. Drink thou also, let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of Yahweh's right hand shall be turned upon thee, and shameful spewing shall be upon thy glory. Now, once again, this is something that's been happening for a while, right? But, this is reason why these are all grouped here, is because these are all happening now, all at the same time, okay? Yeah, so go down here, bam, enable that, boom. Right, so now that's in the list also. Right, so shameful spewing is upon this man's glory. I.e., we're able to see, or rather, it's becoming mainstream what it is that this man has been doing, right? All of his wickedness, right, that he hath done to the children of Israel, right? So like I said, I wanted to mention this as well before I forget. right? Because this is the thing, when you just look at what E feeds you to look at, as in, because E will be like, yo, pay attention to this. So that's what people do. They'll pay attention to that and that only, right? And when you're doing that, you're not putting these scriptures into context. You're not looking at the bigger picture. Okay. I was trying to find a better way of phrasing on that, but that's the best I have at the moment. You're not looking at the bigger picture. So then you think that, oh, it's, that's just this, it's just this current pestilence, whatever. But you're not looking at all of the different cogs surrounding it. Right now, when you look at all of the different cogs surrounding it, then you got to draw the conclusion that actually this is the end, right? This is Sirach 39:1. But he that giveth his mind to the law of the Most High and is occupied in the meditation thereof will seek out the wisdom of all the ancient and be occupied in prophecies, right? So that is the thing. We would be occupied in prophecies. We'll be going into these precepts, going into those precepts. Right? We'll be watching and praying. Scriptures speak about watching and pray. Okay. So we go up here to Matthew 24:13. It says, but he that shall, oh, that's not the one I wanted. That is not the one I wanted. Mark 13:33. Yes, take heed. Mark 13:33. Take ye heed, watch and pray, for ye know not when the time is. So none of us know when the Lord is coming back. Even Yahushua doesn't know when the Lord is coming back, proving that they're two different entities. I think that's actually what this is. It's pretty nice, not a piece of that. But yeah, that's just proof again that the Lord is not our Lord Yahushua is not the same as the Heavenly Father Yahweh. Okay, and those are their true names. Yahweh being the name of the Father, and Yahushua being the name of the Son. Right, so I'll read that again, Mark 13:33. Take ye heed, watch and pray, for ye know not when the time is. So we don't know when the Lord is coming back. So we've got to be watching, we've got to be praying. Okay, and when you watch and you pray, we're able to see all of these different things that are happening all simultaneously. And this is the thing, because for instance, we'll talk about plagues and pestilences. People are like, well, there's been plagues and pestilences before. Right, we might talk about civil unrest, and people will be like, oh, there's been civil unrest before. Right, we might talk about the wickedness of Esau being revealed, then they'll be like, well, that's been happening all the time. Right, but that's because, and that's what I was trying to say earlier on, when you just look at all of these things as isolated events, it's easy to just brush it off and be like, well, that always happens. Right, but it's the fact that all of these things are happening all at the same time, right? That's how we know that this is the end times. Okay. So we broke that. Let me read that again and break it down. This is Sirach 39:1. But he that giveth his mind to the law of the Most High and is occupied in meditation thereof. Right, so occupying, so thinking about these things all the time, thus watching and praying. Because as the apostles say, you watch and then you're like, okay, cool, that links up with this and that precept. Okay, it says we'll seek out all the wisdom of all the ancient. How you gonna be reading these scriptures? Because these scriptures are where it's at. You read, I believe it's in Isaiah. It says, basically this none one may, right? It's Isaiah 34:16. Right, seek ye out of the book of Yahweh and read. Right, so this is the book, right? Not anything else, right? People will be like, yeah, but have you read Quran? Which brothers might know certain verses in the Quran to cut the Quran, right? Because I believe there's one which basically says, very roughly paraphrasing, to reverence the the children of Israel. And where the children of Israel written about in these scriptures, man. Okay, but when it comes to all of those other extra biblical things, man, ultimately, yeah, that might aid, but this is where it's at. Okay, no one of these shall fail, none shall want her mate, and that none shall want the mate, none shall want her mate, basically meaning that you can't mate this book with anything else, right? It's the scriptures and the scriptures alone, right? From my mouth it hath commanded, and the spirit it hath gathered them. Okay. All right, so we carry on. So we was going into Deuteronomy 30:7, so that's good, right? Jeremiah 28:8 says the prophets that have been before me and before thee have all prophesied against many countries and against great kingdoms of war and of evil and of pestilence. Okay, so basically, when you had the prophets of old coming on the scene, right, they basically came, and what were they doing? Their aim was to basically break down the coming calamity to that particular kingdom. Now, this time has been no different, right? This time has been no different. The Lord has been, and why? Because those prophets are the same prophets. Not 33, it's 32. Right? It says 1 Corinthians 14:32 says, and the spirits of the prophets are subject to the prophets. So what does that mean? It means if you was a prophet before, you was a prophet in this time. It means if you was a scoffer before, you're a scoffer this time. Right? You hear the apostle speak about Prince being, I think they said Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, right? Prince being Mozart, right? Because that's that spirit of that kind of musician coming back again in this life. Okay, you hear the apostle speak about Trump being Nero, right? Potentially being Nero, one of them Caesars there. Okay, why? Because that's that spirit coming back again to what do you call it? To do the same thing. Why? Because these spirits, the law basically create you what your spirit is basically. Okay, you ain't gonna be a wicked ass, grimy ass gremlin nigger in the last life and then come back as a prophet, and you ain't gonna be a prophet in the last time and then come back as a grimy ass nigga. That's just not how the Lord does things. Okay. So this is when the prophets were out there before doing, basically coming out and teaching. This is exactly what they were doing, man. Okay, prophesying against great kingdoms. And this is one of the most powerful kingdoms you've ever seen, right? What is the most powerful kingdom you've ever seen? More power over the entire earth. Okay, right? And they starting off the apostles on down, their teachers before them, right? Been coming out prophesying of war and of evil, which evil means like a bad time, and pestilence, whether it's a disease pestilence, right? But ultimately, these ICBM nuclear missiles, okay, they're referred to as a plague when you read Zechariah 14 and 12. Okay, so the next one, Jeremiah 31:22. Right, says, how long wilt thou go about, O thy backsliding daughter? For Yahweh hath created a new thing in the earth, a woman shall compass a man. Right, so this is going into your modern day feminism. Okay, now you might be like, yeah, but technically speaking, feminism, as Paul was breaking it down, like feminism really started with Eve in the garden trying to usurp authority over Adam, right? That's what she did what she did. But that's what you're seeing today, but on a global scale, right? You're seeing that on a global scale right now, where the woman is being put ahead of the man, right? Right. This is another sign, of one of these another one of these prophecies being fulfilled in these latter days. Right. Now, once again, you can look at and isolate this particular precept and say, yeah, but that's happened at this point in history and that point in history. But that's not what we're doing. That's not the purpose of this show. That's not the purpose of these of this collection of precepts here, right? The purpose of these collection of precepts and the purpose of this show is to show that all of these things are happening at the same time, right? All of these prophecies are coming to pass at the same time. Okay. This is Ezekiel 38 verses 4 to 7, right? Now this is talking about Russia, right? When you read the first verse on down, right? It says, and I'll turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, right? And this is going into the fact that the Lord isn't with these Russians. Why? Because these Russians, even though they're against America, they're Edomites themselves, right? That's you think of the precept, if Satan be divided against Satan, how shall his kingdom stand? Right? So these Edomites, the Russian Edomite, basically are fighting against the American Edomite. So what does it mean by turn thee back? That's going into the fact that these Russians are going to basically, the Lord is going to put the spirit in them to go back into that Cold War spirit, right? Because, after the Cold War, Russia was like a wounded animal, man, just in a corner licking its wounds, right? But, you especially when you consider Syria, right? How basically Russia has, just been there at the back, just, propping Syria up, right? Russia's trying to, even with the Sputnik V, right? Russia's trying to be that world superpower again, because you really think about all the different nations that have produced these these jabs, right? What nations have these been? America, there's been Britain, right? There's been Russia, and there's been China, right? Basically world superpowers. Right now, Britain, that's they're they're yeah, they're not what they used to be, right? But even when you look at say Pfizer BioNTech's one, right, which I believe BioNTech, that's a German one led by a Turkish immigrant, right? But even still, they needed the pulling power of, not pulling power, but they needed the power of Pfizer behind them, an American, major American company, right? So when you look at that, those are those superpowers coming in action, right? So the Lord basically put that spirit back in Russia to become a superpower back again, right? To get back into that Cold War mentality, right? From Russia with love, right? It says, okay, so it says, and put hooks into thy jaws, right? And I'll bring thee forth all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. And this is going into the the military, the military arsenal that they have. Okay, so it's Persia, Ethiopia, Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet, right? So Persia, and you see that and that Persia, that's Iran, right? You see what's this country? Russia back in Iran, right? What do you call it? I believe in I certainly remember with Libya, they were speaking about sending basically some kind of military hardware to Libya a long time ago. Okay, but all of these things once again happening at the same time, right? It says Ngoma, and this is referring to Turkey, okay? And I remember after the coup, the failed coup in Turkey. I remember, what do you call it? No, before the failed coup in Turkey, basically being like, how is this prophecy going to come to pass, right? But what did the Lord do? The Lord had that failed coup happen, and we don't know really what happened behind the scenes, but this is how it looked to the outside world. To the outside world, it was a Turkey was like, yo, West, who's gonna back me? The West did nothing, and then Russia was just there like, look, I come protect you, I come protect you, right? And then that's what happened. And then now that's why you've got this whole big issue between Turkey and NATO, because Turkey are getting the Russian S whatever 100, whether it's I believe it will be S-400 system, right? Air defense system. But Turkey also wants the F-35s. Now the way the air defense systems work is such, they have to know what is an enemy and what is friend and what is foe, right? So now if the S-400 systems are then trained with the profile of a F-35, then guess what happens? The Russians potentially now know the profile of an F-35, right? And then can then retrain their systems, right, to basically be able to identify an F-35 in the sky. Okay, to better identify, because you don't know that these things will have like radar defeating technology, so it's harder to detect them, right? On radar, this, that, and the other. Okay, so that was a big deal with Turkey getting the S-500s, right? It says, "Be thou prepared, and prepare thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them." So be a protector unto them, right? So, and that's what you see. That's that. When you look at like Iran and Syria, that's why they haven't just gone there and bombed the hell out of Iran and Syria. Why? Because they've got Russia backing them. Okay. And the next one, now this one for me is the creme de la creme, right? This is Hosea 1 and 10. Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, right, which cannot be measured nor numbered, right? So that's basically saying that the Israelites are going to be so large. You grab a a handful of sand, you're not able to easily, you're not able to number that, right? And that's basically what the likened unto the children of Israel. There's so many of them that you can't number them, right? Not literally saying that is the same number, just giving it as an example. And it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, Ye are not my people, there it shall be said unto them, Ye are the sons of the living power. Right, and that is a great contrast to what we had over here in Jeremiah 17 and 14, right? Which says this, 17 and 4, Salakia, which says this, right? It says, and thou even thyself shalt discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee, and I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not, for ye have kindled a fire in mine anger, which shall burn forever. Okay, so we as a nation, we discontinued from our heritage, right? We we forgot who we were, right? And we carry, we more or less became heathens. We were dead, right? He that wandereth out of the he that wandereth out of the way of understanding shall remain in the congregation of the dead, right? I believe that Proverbs 21:16. All right, so we discontinued from marriage. We forgot who we were. Why? Because we went off. But guess what? Now we're coming back to this understanding, and we're telling these people, like, look, man, we're the children of Israel, right? But more and more, it's becoming more and more evident. I mean, for us to know, we know. I mean, come on, we know what the Israelites. Matthew 5:13, right? Salt of the earth. Deuteronomy the 28th chapter. Those curses are designed as they are, so that we would be able to identify ourselves in these last days, right? So it says, yeah, that in that place where it was said unto them, Ye are not my people, there it shall be said unto them, Ye are the sons of the living power. Okay, so that was what would happen in these last days. That this understanding would be taught again, right? We'll be telling people with the Israelites. They'll be trying to tell us, "No, you're not the Israelites," right? But more and more, right, it was become known more and more that actually these claims are on point, right? So next one, Joel 2:28, 30 to 31. And it shall come to pass afterward that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, your old men shall dream dreams, and your young men shall see visions. Right? And once again, you look at this and you isolate this, and you're like, oh yeah, but that's been happening all the time, right? You've been having, people have dreams and visions all the time, right? But once again, you got to look at this contextually with, within the sit down, and within, this list of precepts here, right? Which Lord's will, like I said, if you got more, because I know I'm missing a load here, but if you got more, put them in the comment board, and I can add them as well. All right, but when you look at all of these different things all happening at the same time, all coming to pass, all being fulfilled, right? Basically meaning there really aren't many prophecies left. You've got the mark of the beast and World War III, right? Really, right? Obviously, you got more than that, but those are the major ones that we're waiting for. Okay, time of Jacob's trouble. You got the spiritual power. You got you have got quite a few prophecies left, but in terms of major prophecies, it's the mark of the beast and the and this third world war, and then obviously after that it's the deliverance, man. Okay. So it says, but you've been seeing more and more brothers' wives, especially, as supposed to say, usually the women that be having the dreams, right? So yeah, it says, and also upon the servants, upon the handmaids in those days, and also upon the servants and upon the handmaids in those days will I pour out my spirit, right? And I will show wonders in the heavens and in the earth, blood and fire and pillars of smoke, right? It says, and the sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and terrible day of Yahweh come. And once again, you've been seeing, events that have not happened in 800 years. You had that, the alignment end of December last year, right, between, was it Jupiter and Saturn, right? You had the blood ring of fire moon or something like that at the beginning of 2020, right? And we see how 2020 went out. You had all, and I'm missing a load once again, right? But we've had a load of celestial events happening, signs in the heavens, right? Of things that were to as a sign, which we take as a sign, because you read Genesis 1:14, right? It speaks about how these things would be shown as will be as signs unto us, right? So this is Genesis 1:14. Right, so, and the Most High said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years." So when we're looking at the heavens, right, we see that actually these are signs unto us. The Lord has made them signs, so we can look up to them and be like, "Okay, cool. This is what we expect to happen." Well, in fact, where is this? This is Chronicles. Okay, that was way too hopeful. Boom. The water. Oh yeah, First Chronicles 12:32, and the children of Issachar, which were men that had understanding of the times, to know what Israel ought to do. The heads thereof were 200, and all their brethren were at their commandment, right? And this is speaking into the fact that they were able to look up. It's literally just a link up, right? To look up to the stars of heaven, right? To be able to look at and understand all of these different things that were to happen. You think about the Mayan calendar, for instance, okay, being able to look at the stars and, okay, this is expected to happen around about this and that period, right? To be like, well, but Mayan calendar, it's 2021 now. Yeah, but what else has changed, right? This man's we use a different numbering system now, different calendar system than what was used back then. Okay. But yeah, we know this is almost the end, man. Regardless of that, whether that was all BS or whether it was real, whatever, right? We know this is the end. Why? Because the scriptures say that. And once again, we think of that scripture read in Isaiah, what, 34:16 was it, or 36:14, right? None shall want her mate. Because at the end of the day, these scriptures are the this is the end. This is the source of truth, as they say, right? So read this in Sirach 43:6. He made the moon also to serve in a season for a declaration of times and the sign of the world. Right? For the moon is the sign of feast, a light that decreaseth in their perfection. Right? The month was called after her name, increasingly wonderful in her changing, being an instrument of the armies above, shining in the firmament of heaven. Right? So once again, showing the fact that these celestial bodies are set up to show us signs, right, in these last days, right? Once again, yeah, you've had this happening, right? But once again, it's happening all in the midst of all of these different precepts, right? This is Second Ezra 6:9. Nice and simple, straight into the point. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. Right now, if you have an understanding of Esau and because Esau, which says Esau is Edom, right? If you have an understanding of who Esau is and who the Edomites are, right, then you will, what do you call? You will know that what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, so the very fact that he is in rulership at the moment, right, shows you that this is the last period, the last kingdom, right? And then when you put link up with all the other precepts, and you know that actually we are close, right? There isn't going to be another ruler after this, right? The Moabites aren't going to rule next, right? Which is so-called Chinese. They're not ruling next, okay? Despite their best hopes and dreams, they are not ruling next, right? This is Second Ezra 6:21 now, right? It says and the children of a year old shall speak with their voice, right? And the woman with child shall bring forth untimely children of 3 or 4 months, and they shall live and be raised up, right? That's going into preemies, as they call them, right? Premature babies, right? Back in the day, if you was like 2 months premature, you're dead, right? But more and more as as this technology increases, guess what? These children that would have otherwise died are surviving, right? And we'll read Revelation 16 soon, right, to be able to prove this, right? Second Ezra 15:17, right, to bring things right into today, right? Second Ezra 15:17, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able, right? So you think about these lockdowns that have been global, right, international, right? You've had, for the first time, in history ever, right? A British person wasn't able to just hop and go to America. Okay, locally there was a time where, although it wasn't weren't like any roadblocks or anything or whatever what have you, but there was a time, what, December, beginning of January, no, but it was December, end of December, 2020, where basically London was classed as a tier 4 restriction, tier 4 area, basically meaning you couldn't come in and you couldn't go out of London, right? Now, once again, there weren't no roadblocks or anything, but if you was catch trained, there was a chance that you would be questioned, like where you going, this, that, and the other. You're a key worker. Why are you traveling, right? That, just the anxiety, right? Of like traveling amongst, amongst your would sorry, just traveling where you want to go, right? He made this very difficult. Okay, even just being able to go to the next town to go visit a friend, the back of your mind, you got to be like, yo, he might, just pull up. Cops be like, yo, okay, spot check, where you going? Okay, now we know this is gonna get worse, right? But once again, this is the first time that this has happened on a global scale. Okay, this is Matthew 16:04. It says, a wicked and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign, and they shall no sign be given unto it, but the sign of the prophet Jonas. And he left them and departed. Right, and I'll put this in there because this is the most adulterous generation there has ever been. Right, the chances that you listening, that people not listening, actually are currently, your woman is a virgin. The chances of that is very low. It's very low. Whereas in kingdoms before, it was the norm. They held, look, what would this be, like 60 years ago? It people would be like, would you mean just like had casual sex? And the proof of that is how it is easier to that fact that you have sex with your missus before you meet her parents, whereas before it was you had first base, you kiss or whatever have you, and then might bring you to her parents' house or whatever, and then eventually you lot would have sex or whatever. That was the end goal. But nowadays it's the flip side of that. That's the first thing you do, and then you might find out what her dad's name is, right? Hey, hell, you might find out what her name is after you, right? So when you have an understanding of that, sex, according to the scriptures, is marriage pursuant to Exodus 22:16, right? When you consider that, and then you really consider what is going on in this world, the only conclusion to draw there is, that this is an adulterous generation, right? It's a sign of the prophet Jonah. This is a metaphor for the death of Yahushai, i.e. means that being dead for 3 days and then coming back to life. Jonah was swallowed by a great fish, where he remained for 3 days and 3 nights. Okay, so now Matthew 24:6 and 7, right? It says, and ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars, right? See that ye be in no trouble, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. Okay, so we've been hearing of wars, we've been hearing of rumors of wars all this time, right? But once again, this is something that has to happen. Right, so for nation rise against nation, kingdom against kingdoms, and they shall be famines. And and this is something people forget. One of the things that was happening last year, you had a load of farmers having to cut their stock. Not cut their stock, but cut their, whether it's their animals, whether it was no one there to pick their fields. Right, so the fruit got rotten, or whether they couldn't move the food out of the country, because not out of the country, but out of the farm even, right? You had abattoirs that were closed so that the farmers couldn't kill their animals, right? There's some pestilence, and we're living through one, right? Earthquakes, and volcanoes. You've been seeing, like, there was like 3 or 4 volcanoes, doing things. I think, no, was it 3 or 4, mommy? I think there was Mount Etna. There was one in the, yeah, it was two. It was Mount Etna, one in, I think it was like one of them Southeast Asian countries or whatever, volcanoes. And then there was that large earthquake off of the coast of New Zealand, right? So that's that one. It's Matthew 24:14 says, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, then shall the end come. Now, this is another one, right? That's kind of like a very important one because this truth is global. Right, GMS has gone global. Right, the apostles, teaching out there in New York and spread throughout the whole of America. Right, and then it went to Latin. We're not saying then, but and now it's in Latin America. So obviously here in Europe, right? It's there in Australasia, right? It's basically on all the inhabitant well, it's in Africa, the land of Ham, right? Your brother out there now was in Tanzania, okay. So this truth has gone global, right? It says, and notice that it says this truth shall be taught worldwide, and then shall the end come. So that was one of the prerequisites before, we could even consider the Lord coming back. Once again, this truth has been preached out throughout the whole whole earth, right? It's got three more, right? It says Revelation 11:11. It says, and after 3 days and a half, the spirit of life from the Most High entered into them, and they stood upon their feet. Right, and great fear fell upon them which saw them. Right, and these 3.5 days represented of 350 years, in which we were in captivity over there in the land of America. Right, roughly from 1620 roughly to 1970. Right, that's when the 1620. That's when the bulk of the slaves started coming over. Okay. So it says, and stood upon their feet, right? So that's what these people are witnessing now, pursuant to Ezekiel, the 37th chapter, right? The Israelites standing on their feet, professing and proclaiming and speaking up against this man's kingdom, okay? With great boldness. You can read that in Wisdom, the 5th chapter, first verse, right? So, great fear fell upon them which saw them. Why are they feared? Why are they fearful? Why are they scared? Why? Because they're seeing, they're seeing their end. That's it. See, they know that when they know Jeremiah 28:8, which is what we read earlier on, they know that that is true. Okay. Revelation 13:16 and 17, and he calls it all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Okay, so this is going as the mark of the beast, which is the RFID microchip. And what we're seeing with this current situation, right, is the infrastructure being pushed for that very, very quickly now. Okay, people are forgetting cash. People aren't trying to touch cash at the moment. Okay, and then when you really consider about what how different is inserting a jab to inserting the RFID microchip. It's not too different, is it? Okay, and that's how we see where we're looking at these particular events, and we're like, yo, the infrastructure for the mark of the beast is being readied. Okay, this is Revelation 16:14 says, for they are the spirits of devils working miracles. And this is going into this man's technology. Now I quoted it in 2nd Ezra the 6th chapter, right, or rather referenced in 2nd Ezra the 6th chapter about certain of these things that he is able to do. This technology will blow your mind, right? It will blow your mind, and that's why we have this understanding that this man is is the devil. Right. But we understand that the Most High is working with this man on the left hand side, because anyone who's able to do this, the Most High has to be working with you. Certain of the things this man is doing, man, like I said, will blow your mind. You really, I remember one of my favorite tech reviewers said this, right? He was like, he basically said, I find it interesting that you can basically tap on a bit of metal and glass, and then food will arrive at your door, right? And I was referencing like your food delivery agents, food delivery companies such as Deliveroo or Uber Eats. Because you really think about that's what you're doing. Like right now, I'm doing this video. I'm just speaking into a bit of glass and a metal, and you are now able to hear hear this truth, right? But who gave this man this understanding? The Most High. Why? Because this truth had to come out, and he had to destroy himself, right? Without the understanding of the microchip, about radio waves and this, that, and the other microwaves, and flight, right? This man wouldn't be able to destroy himself. right? Wouldn't be able to fulfill the prophecy of America being destroyed in but 1 hour. Okay. But yeah, bit of a lengthy one. Don't usually make videos this long, but like I said, it's just a collation of precepts, basically proving how we know that this is the end, right? Once again, you can't look at these things in isolation, but you got to look at them as a whole, because when you look at them as a whole, you're able to put these things into, you're able to, look at these things and be like, actually, if it was just that, then okay, cool. You could be like, yeah, okay, that was then. But it's this, it's that, it's that, it's that, it's that. All of these prophecies now are coming to pass. Okay. There's very few prophecies left, and only two major prophecies before the Lord comes back. Okay, so I think with that, we can close. Like I said, but sure, if you got more, add them up in here. As always, go and give all praise to Yahweh, Hashem El Shai, right? Hashem Akar Kodash, double once apostles, GMS, and honest brothers in the work, Lord in truth and in sincerity. I hope this was edifying. Till the next time we say Shalom.